North Korea. It's a country that's been making a lot of news lately. Unfortunately, most of it has been rather negative. After all, turn on a television or search through the online news and you're bound to come across at least a few dark stories concerning this so-called Hermit Kingdom. From dictators to missile launches to stories of famine, from the outside, things look pretty bleak in this small Asian country. Indeed, apart from stories about the military and impoverished population, there doesn't seem to be much else going on in North Korea. Unless, of course, you make your way to the country's capital of Pyongyang. There, you'll run into a small but noticeable group of millennials who wouldn't be that out of place in the hotspots of LA, New York, and London. Yes, these are the 1%ers of North Korea, and they live a lifestyle that is so different from every other North Korean, it's hard to believe they actually exist. Normally, when we talk about the 1%, we mean the super wealthy and privileged of the Western world. We imagine 20-something men and women buying the finest cars, covering themselves in expensive jewelry, and living in the finest homes. Well, that situation exists in North Korea as well. Traditionally, the richest in North Korea worked in the government or high up in the military. Over the past several years, that situation has begun to change a bit thanks to the arrival of Kim Jong-un. The millennial generation makes up 25% of the North Korean population. Unwilling to follow in the footsteps of previous generations, they have used their parents' status to propel themselves into positions of wealth and privilege. They are now known as the Donju, or masters of money. As wealthy merchants or holding prominent jobs, they enjoy a much higher standard of living than most. Living in Pyongyang, this 1% is making itself heard. Sure, they're not as obvious as their LA and New York counterparts, but the wealthy and young adults who live in Pyongyang enjoy a lifestyle that might just surprise you. One thing pretty much every defector from North Korea has said is that food is pretty hard to come by. Unsurprisingly, after years of famine and mismanagement, most of the people in the country are hungry or malnourished. Then there's the rich kids of Pyongyang. First off, the capital city receives the best food because Kim Jong-un wants it to be a symbol of North Korean success. However, if you're a rich kid, then you get access to the absolute best there is on offer. What do we mean? Well, living in Pyongyang isn't cheap to begin with. For instance, if you like coffee, then expect to pay upwards of $9 a cup. If you're a meat and potatoes kind of person, that meal can cost you $50. Even a bowl of bibimbap, a standard dish of rice, vegetables, and egg, will run you $7. For the regular resident of Pyongyang who brings home an average monthly salary of $10, these foods are a luxury that's out of reach. For the super rich millennials, buying such items is a daily routine. In fact, they think nothing of entering the few fancy supermarkets and spending hundreds of dollars on Austrian beef, Norwegian salmon, and European craft beers. When they finish spending large sums on food and drinks, those 1%ers love to shop. It's a good thing they live in Pyongyang because you won't find a lot of fashion items outside the city. In an area of the capital known as Pyonghatan, rich kids spend their money as quickly as they can on Western fashions. It may not be LA's Rodeo Drive or New York's Fifth Avenue, but over here it's as close as you'll get. Yes, in North Korea, anything Western is supposed to be evil, but like pretty much everywhere else, there seems to be a different set of rules for the rich. Wealthy 20 and 30-something men and women rush into the stores to buy goods from H&M, Zara, Adidas, and Nike. Designer handbags and flat-screen televisions that cost well over $100 are a dream for most regular Koreans. For the brat pack of rich kids out shopping, such luxuries are a reality. Even modern music isn't out of reach. If you have the money, then it's been reported that you can access everything from Britney Spears to Backstreet Boys to the latest K-pop coming out of South Korea. When it comes to cars, the rich don't need to wait on long lists for government approval like everyone else. This is pretty obvious when you see most people waiting to spend $40,000 on a tiny compact car while the rich kids are driving around in imported Audis. What's one thing the super rich love to do in the United States? Well, get cosmetic surgery, of course. In fact, all over the world, men and women spend considerable money to get everything from Botox injections to butt lifts. Interestingly enough, it turns out that the rich kids of North Korea are no different. Now, before you start thinking that North North Korean women are getting breast implants to look like Pamela Anderson and work on their caboose to look like Nicki Minaj, will tell you that's not the case at all. This is a land where there is actually a list of state-sanctioned hairstyles after all. It just seems that North Koreans, especially the rich, got tired of watching their South Korean neighbors lead the way in cosmetic procedures. While there may not be as many going under the knife in Pyongyang as in LA, the rich millennials of North Korea do enjoy some work on their eyes and nose. In fact, if they aren't getting nose jobs, 1%ers are eagerly getting work done on their eyelids in order to look more Western. The procedure can cost upwards of $200 depending on the quality of the surgeon. That may not sound like a lot to you and me, but in a city where you're lucky to make $10 a month, that's a luxury only the richest can afford. Now, before we go on, we just have to clear up one thing. As you've seen so far, those rich millennials who enjoyed the good life in Pyongyang seem to live by a different set of rules. In a way, they do. Just like the rich everywhere else in the world, there is a somewhat unwritten set of rules by which the 1%ers of North Korea live. Western fashions, imported foods, Western cars and technology, it all seems to go against the views of Kim Jong-un. Well, according to some who have enjoyed the good life in the Hermit Kingdom, there are rules that no amount of money will overcome. For instance, sleeveless shirts and skirts that are very short are totally off limits. For those rich kids looking to stand out by changing their hair color, forget about it. Hair dye is reportedly non-negotiable. In fact, any clothes or personal fashion that is too radical or extreme will get attention of the North Korean authorities, and not the good kind. Clearly, foreigners who visit North Korea are not bound by these rules, as proven by the numerous visits of Dennis Rodman. So, if you can't wear outlandish fashions or modify your look too outrageously, how can a super rich kid of Pyongyang make themselves stand out? One former member of the capital's so-called brat pack of rich kids leaked the strategy. Lee Hyun-seo defected years ago, but she told reporters that hitting the gym was an important part of a rich kid's life. Yes, hitting the gym is a great way to get those bulging arms, nice legs, and overall healthy appearance. However, the gym also serves another function. Limited to those who could afford it, some time spent at the gym was also a way to show off your body and a little extra skin to others around you. After all, if you're expected to wear long skirts and shirts with sleeves in public, then the gym gives you an excuse to bear those parts that need to be covered in public. That's an added bonus to dishing out those gym membership fees as well. In those gyms designed solely for the rich, millennials get to work out and show off their bodies all while enjoying an array of generally off-limit television programming. For instance, according to former residents, the televisions in such high-end gyms often show Disney programming or other Western entertainment. Yet another example of the laws being bent to suit the lifestyles of the rich. Of course, like any group of rich kids, sticking around in one place can get kind of boring after a while. Like their American counterparts, the rich millennials of Pyongyang love a good vacation, which is something only the richest can dream of. The wealthy and kids of rich parents have a few options when it comes to R&R away from the big city. Of course, you could always go to China where there is plenty to see and buy. This can be a bit of a hassle, even for the richest, because the government needs to be notified and permission granted. For this reason, shorter trips to locations in North Korea are a favorite. Now, you likely don't think of North Korea as the kind of place that caters to travelers. Yet, under Kim Jong-un, a number of theme parks and resorts have been open to cater to those with either the right political views or larger wallets. For the wealthy North Koreans who like horses, there are stables such as Miram Riding Club. For $35 an hour, North Koreans get time with an instructor to learn all about the ins and outs of handling a horse. Again, if that doesn't sound like a lot, just remember that the fee is around 3 times more than an average monthly income for a Pyongyang resident. If horses aren't your thing, you can always head to the famous Masik Pass Ski Resort, complete with a ski school and 120-room hotel. North Korea's only ski resort is a special place reserved for tourists and the richest kids who call Pyongyang home. With its Austrian ski lift and imported snowmobiles, this posh location doesn't come cheap. North Korea's 1%ers can expect to pay $100 a day to ski or over $500 for a 2-night hotel and ski package. Of course, that fee includes transportation, but we can't imagine the rich putting aside their Audis to travel in resort buses. Ultimately, to outsiders like you and me, Kim Jong-un's North Korea remains largely a mystery. If the news and media are anything to go by, then it seems that this Hermit Kingdom is obsessed with all things military. Yet as we've shown you, there is an entirely other side to the North Korean story. It's one without missiles, famine, or harsh military rule. Instead, it's a life of Prada, plastic surgery, and vacations. Sure, it may not involve the glitz and glamour of Paris, LA, or New York, but the rich kids of Pyongyang give us a whole new view of life in this secretive land. These rich millennials also prove that regardless of laws, culture, and political differences, the wealthy elite are pretty much the same no matter where you find them across this planet.